on catching numbers and basically running a system. So for a lot of, well, I'm Logan Excellent, no name trapper on YouTube. So if you guys ever have any follow-up questions, you can hit me up on there. So a lot of guys think they can catch numbers, and the truth of it is any trapper can catch numbers. All you have to do is develop a system that works for you. You got to try out different equipment. You got to fine-tune and come up with your own ideas to apply it, and that's how you can develop your own system. Catching numbers just comes down to a couple things. You got to have the number of critters to catch, and you got to have the number of traps to set. That's it. Everything else is simple and logistics and things. Luckily, when I served in the military, that I was medical logistics, so it kind of worked for me. So what I do is I research each product in the industry, and I form my own opinions on things, test them out, and then I take the best products that work for my system. So I'm just going to start out when trapping season kicks off in November. I'm out there chasing raccoons through November because, as you guys know, a lot of times it starts snowing in December on a typical winter, and they down out. Yep, they down out. So when I'm running my November system, I'm running anchors. So I've got a pogo driver. I got two trucks, and my two trucks all have the same things in them. In early season November, I run the pogo system, right? And I run cable, and I attach my trap with quick hooks. Okay, it's a simple system. The reason I like the pogos is a lot of times I can push them in by hand, unless we're in a severe drought. Now, with that being said, I don't like the pogos later in the year because trying to bust through that frozen ground with that rounded edge is harder. Yep, so that's when I switch to wolf thing. But when I'm running for raccoons, I'm running with the pogo system usually in November.
You run a lot of dog proof?
I do, but so I run three different traps. I run a dog proof, I run a 1.5, and I run 220s. I know you guys can't run 220s down here in Missouri, but I do think there's some potential with 155s if you get good H-stands. They're pretty small. They're pretty small. You're going to have to do some blocking, but there's certain trails you guys know that you see and it just screams little conifer. And you'll catch a lot of skunks and stuff. Skunks are worth money. When I'm out there, I want to catch about everything running the trails. So when I'm raccoon trapping, guys, I'm catching coyotes, I'm catching bobcats, I'm catching skunks, I'm catching anything that are running those trails. So with the 155, if I was going to run that down here in Missouri, I'd hook them to an H-stand. I'd buy 155s, I'd cut that crab chain that usually comes with them, and I'd put good chain on them. And then I attach a quick link to the H-stand. It's one unit then. You can paint it, you're good to go, right? It's one system, and that way, if they pull that H-stand out, that H-stand is still attached and it becomes a drag, right? So then they're usually hooked up in a fence nearby. So that's the system I would recommend running here in Missouri with conifers, because you want to have those conifers in the back of your truck. You do, because there are those times that you need them. Yeah, and you want to keep your catches out of sight. A lot of times, if you got a 155, there'll be a dead bobcat down there. You can get a cat and stick your head through there. You'll have a dead bobcat down in the ditch, and you can be driving by and get around. So running dog proofs, I run just standard how they come, right? The chains there's usually a swivel and nice hookup. They're usually pretty ready to run out of the box. I hook a quick link to it, and that way I can hook to my wolf or to my pogo system. Then when you go to 1.5 blind sets, and this is where a lot of trappers, I feel like there's been a generational lapse of knowledge that's kind of been lost. A lot of guys are running just dog proofs on those coon trails. And I'm here to tell you, if you guys switch over and you put 1.5 blind sets on those coon trails, you'll catch more cats and coyotes than you ever imagined. If you're putting a dog proof on a coon trail, I've seen videos, guys will put a dog proof on those coon trails, and they'll catch a coon, and there's bobcats and coyotes walking right around those coons. So I recommend running a 1.5 blind set. I didn't bring any 1.5s today. I wasn't a prepared trapper, right? But I had this foothold from a buddy of mine in New York, so I'm going to describe the 1.5 line set, which is my most effective one in November and in December, and if there's no snow, I'll run it into January, February. So the 1.5 line set, all you need is you want loose pan tension. You want a floppy pan, right? You want a floppy pan, and I like a laminated jaw or a double jaw. It's a little easier with foot damage, especially if you catch a skunk. They like to chew and twist and mess things up. All right, so I'll go ahead and set the strap and show you how simple it is. All right, you got your loose pan, and you're gonna trigger hair set it. You want to take that pan to where it's about to snap off. Then, like I said, this is my system, right? So this is my buddy's. All you're gonna do is you see a coon trail going along. You're gonna take that trap. You're gonna set that trap right in that coon trail at a low spot or a spot where it pitches down. And I stake off to the side, and I have my chain off to the side. And you just wiggle that trap down a couple times side to side. You put a few blades of grass over the top just to break up download. Now that sounds crazy, but you were going to catch coyotes on there. I've got hundreds of pictures of me catching coyotes with that same system, right? Because they're running the trails. You're not drawing them to a bait or a loop. So while you're running that November coon line, get your cats, get your coyotes, get your skunks. You'll even catch otter on dry ground, nowhere near water. Okay, I had it happen just a couple years ago. The farmer said there's not even a pond near here. And it was just a dry ditch, and it went through that netted fencing too. And I had an otter tied up on this high bank just running around. He said, that's awesome. Take that son of a gun home, you know. But if I hadn't had a 1.5 line set on there, if I put a dog proof like everybody likes to, I wouldn't have had that on. So that's a top set, and you can run that most of the fall and winter, and sometimes in the spring. And it'll survive a little snow, just not a lot of snow and a lot of refreezing and unfreezing. And you don't have to bury the set at all. So anyways, that's how I run my November raccoon line per set. Then I switched to trapping more specifically cats and coyotes. So then I've got a tote in the back of my truck. I've got two totes, one with 2s, one with size 3 footholds, and one with snares. I've got a third one off the side with snares. I know you guys can't run snares here, but you can run cable restraints, and I highly recommend when you can. I know your regulations are pretty stiff on it. So, as I'm walking along the truck, I open one side of my truck, the back hatch, you know, I've got a topper, and I'm grabbing my anchor, and I grab whether I want to run a snare or foothold, and I'm putting that on, and I've got my predator bag right there, so I just grab it, I go, and if I'm setting up the side of a field, I'll put a few dirt holes in it, or however I want to set it up. But that is the system I use. You've got snaring, you've got footholds. It's a good system. You can catch anything in this sense. But that's when I'm mainly focused on cats and coyotes. Okay? And then come spring, that's when I start beaver trapping. Right? And when I start beaver trapping, you've got to pull all the old equipment out except for my number 3s or Duke 650s. That's my foothold I run for beaver. I'll have a tote full of 330s, 650s or number 3s, and then I'll have a tote full of snares. I love snaring beaver. So those are the 3 traps that I run in the spring for beaver. And in Iowa, you can't run our 330 submerged. They got to be fully underwater. So I run a lot of pinch point sets where the water narrows down on a creek. You'll catch your otter, you'll catch beaver there too, muskrat, whatever swims through there. And then I've got my footholds, and I don't run a caster mount. It's kind of a ripped off version of a caster. It's a lazy mount. What I do is I take my tile spade and I find a tall bank and I chisel just some back and I pull the mud out of the water and I set my foothold right there off the side and I slap some caster in there. It's more like a slide. But when you pull that mud back, it's all one motion. You cut in, pull the mud back, put your trap off the side. It becomes kind of like a step down. So I can, in the back of my truck, I also have 10-footer chain and I have grounding rods.
Is the Bradley well
visibility place, okay, I'll grab a grounding rod. And again, my footholds all have quick links on them, so I can attach with the grounding rod, grab a stake rebar, and I'm headed down to the water, right? But if I want to run 10 foot of chain, I've got that option. I like to keep my options open and universal system. So typically, my trucks are all set up the same. I've got a hammer, pounded it in. I've got an axe I keep in there. I've got my pogo system and my wood fence for later on when I'm doing the predator trapping. I've got my I've got my setters. I like these setters. I know everybody likes those new ones that lock in, but they don't make a long style like this. These long style ones work great. I can set it to 20, 330 like it's nothing. And they're sturdy and they last forever. This is a new one, but my other sets lasted 5 years. Probably set thousands of conifers. So those are some of the tools I got there. This one I'm going to show you, and I'm not sponsored by Devo, but if they want to sponsor me, Devo lights, I don't know. I found it at a hardware store. I keep this in each of my trucks. So it comes with a headband. I bought it for, I think, 30 bucks. And anyways, I attach it to my hat. I also dress the same way. It's a pretty simple system. I wear a belt and a hat all the time, right? So I utilize that. Everything's got to be able to attach to my belt, or this clips on my hat. This light, matter of fact, I haven't charged it since trapping season. Still good to go. And so I keep those in my truck with the truck charger, so if I need to run in the dark, I've got a light there. If I'm doing nuisance work in the summer and I got to crawl in an attic, I got a light there. So neat little thing. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, but if you guys want one, I'm telling you they're worth their weight in gold. And then you come down here to my bag, or my bucket. I got cable cutters. I buy heavy duty on everything. Heavy duty. I figured I'd rather overkill it than underkill it. So I buy heavy duty cable cutters. I got a pair of gloves, heavy duty pliers. You know, I've got some trailing scent stuff. And then here's one of my last tricks I'm going to show you guys. Bottle of orange juice. I carry my 22 shells right in my door and my 22 pistols there with the holster. So each day when I get off work, I put my 22 right on my hip. But if I need to reload, I just grab, dump them there. It's way better than any box ammo or any other container I've ever found. A bottle of orange juice make your life a lot easier. So those are just some of the systems that I use. And like I said, everything in my truck's pretty universal, and I dress pretty universal, so I can be quick on the spot, you know. And then I just rotate 3 different trap lines. You know, November I'm focused on coon technically. December, you know, late November, December on cats and coyotes, and then in the spring we go to beaver. It's a pretty simple system. The main thing is any of you guys can do this. Anybody can do the same system. It's all about selecting what equipment works for you, and you just go with it. So, any questions today, guys?
When you're in November, I'm assuming you're running a large number of traps on the road.
Yes, yep.
How are you marking them or recording them?
So I do it the old-fashioned way by memory, but I will tell you there's a couple tricks, and I don't tell everybody this. I'll find a used pop can somebody threw out, and I'll move it to that spot. That way, when I'm driving down the road, there's that used pop can, there's a trail there. Also, I got these in there. I can set them off in the ditch. Somebody thinks it's road construction. No, that's just me. I use those for moles and nuisance work too. Another thing that actually kind of brought up in my mind was when you're running a trap line. I had a new trapper ask me today. He drives to different spots. They'll drive to one private ground piece over there, one over there, one over there. I told him, I said, you know, we're fortunate to be able to trap your own. I said, you were passing 40 bobcats on your way to 2 that are running that property, you know, in one night. Trap so you can line it up so you can save fuel and catch as much fur as possible, right? So I told him, you know, he showed me how it was kind of mapped out. I said, run up there and take these gravel roads back to your next private property, and so on and so forth. And that way, guys, you're using your gas mileage and you're not passing up 40 bobcats to catch the two over on this road. When you map it out like that in your mind and you research and you get to know those trails, each year it just becomes muscle memory. You jump out of the truck, you know, this one gets these sets each year, you know. Oh, something changed? Okay, well now I got to remember that for next year. Some guys use GPSs. I'm just super smart. Tell my wife, please, because she don't believe me. But
Just worry about what's on the heart attack.
that's a good point. That's a good point. On it. Or you take somebody you trust, and this is very important. It's got to be somebody you can really trust with your travel. Not your average friend that, you know, stabbed you in the back 7 years ago. Don't pick him, right? If something happens to you, that's a good point. You need to have another person that knows your travel. Luckily, mine's my wife, right? But you know, I don't cross her for a reason. But yeah, it's good to have a system in place in case something happens. Any other questions? Anything about the systems, the sets? All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'm No Name Trapper on YouTube. You can check out my videos. Ask me a question anytime. You don't have to find anything from it. I just like talking trap. All right, thank you, guys.